Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hometown Hairdressers. Hey Shauna.
Hi, Ernesto. We're so excited you're here today with us. I think we're pretty excited about this. We just want to kind of step in and be pretty open about some of our really pivotal moments that we've had in our careers, whether they be good, bad, in between. Just things that we definitely grew from that propelled us forward in our careers, and just something that really, we wanted to get out there.
Well, I think instead of imparting something today, we really just wanted to share about our journeys and the things that moved us and maybe shaped us into what we are today, which is still growing. Yeah,
I'm forever growing. I know you, me, both of us. Like, that's a big part of this. Is I had my old salon or cosmetology teacher tell me in cosmetology school. She's like, the minute that you think you know it all, you're done.
You should, just hang it up then.
Wise woman.
You've got nothing left to learn, right?
Yeah, and so every time I think, this is boring, or this is just getting, monotonous, and just repeatedly going through the motions, but not really feeling, the passion behind it. I think, you know what, it's time. I've got to get out. I've got to learn something different. I've got to learn something new. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I have no idea what I'm about to embark on. But it does help. It helps just to kind of reignite that fire.
And to not stagnate,
Absolutely.
Definitely acquire some fire. But I don't do well stagnating. And, there was a time very recently where all I was doing was going to work and going home. And I thought, I can't keep doing this. So branched out and did something new. And like you said, it's not always calculated. You don't always know exactly what you're getting into. But I feel like as we go along, we learn enough things to take with us when we start out on something new to have it already pre-calculated, whether it's a big enough risk, you know?
Right. And I think too that, like, sometimes when you're along that journey, the little key things that you take from people and the things that you gather with, whether it be at a weekend hands-on hair event, or it be at, your friend's house, and it just be something totally off subject, not even about hair, but just something about the way something was understood or the perceived, and it just kind of light bulb moment, like, here you go, let's take that stuff forward and just continue to keep pushing each other and growing. I think what all of us want to know, Ernie, there's been so many things in my career, but what was your very first pivotal moment of your career where you really just were like, okay, something just clicked right there?
I think it really, really started for me when I had just left Southern Methodist University and was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. I pursued a medical field career. Then I got into education. And I kind of was drifting. I didn't know what to do. And I ended up getting a job at a salon in North Dallas, Sherry Gilderoy Salon. Okay. It was a very upscale clientele, very tastefully executed in all ways. And I was a receptionist, but I watched her work all day long. And excuse me, one of the things that I remember early on was her saying, she shared her stories with everybody, and talked. But she said that one of the things she first did when she finished beauty school was she went to Structure, which is now just Express, right? So Structure was the store for women. She applied for their credit card, got approved for whatever amount, and she bought every combination of black and white tops and bottoms that she could find. And that was just like her uniform.
Okay.
And then she worked to pay that off, which also helped with her credit, and on and on and on. And just watching her behind the chair and the way she worked, her appearance was spectacular. She was always on point. Nothing was ever overdone, but she showed up every day, looked the part. The way she worked, everything, I just remember being in awe of her. And I still didn't know that I wanted to do hair at that moment. But in that moment, when she was telling that story, something clicked for me. And it made me want to present myself the way she presented herself. I didn't know it was going to be in hair necessarily at that point yet. That came very shortly after. But that was one, series of moments with her working with her that helped me to become the hairdresser I wanted to be.
Well, I think I can honestly attest to that because every morning you do that. You wake up and you are so put together. We've touched on that in other episodes, but you are, and that right there shows that was a huge impact on you. The way that she presented herself and the pride that she took in herself. And so what a motivational, 360 right there to see that,
Well, I've seen the barber shops and the salons that I had been to when I was younger. And no, I just didn't see that before. This was Dallas. This was a whole different scene than I had seen in Midland, Texas.
Sure.
So the hairstylists that might have captured my attention before were usually wild and drinking and partied and, that sort of thing, that it just looked fun. But she had it together in a whole different way.
Right.
That resonated with me. And it was like, yes.
It was like, this is not just a fun little hobby, or this is like a good way to make money.
And do this. Serious.
This was business. Like she showed up.
Well, she didn't compromise with anything. Her consistency was, so many examples, but one that blew my mind, she had an assistant program, where you had like a level of stylist that you were, and it was a junior stylist. And she was one of the girls was the daughter of one of her longtime clients. And so, of course, you naturally assume there's a little bit of nepotism there, like a little bit of favoritism. But they went to celebrate her. Her and some of the other girls went out to celebrate her moving up to the next level stylist. And they had a margarita at lunch. And they came back, and I guess somehow it was said, oh, yeah, I had a margarita. She fired all three of those girls. She did it privately. She didn't cause a scene. She didn't anything. But the next day they were gone. And what it did for me was showed me that you need to be uncompromising in your standards, in the standards that you set for yourself, for your business, for the people that work under your name. And it was shocking because in Midland, you just wouldn't do that.
Right.
Because there were so many ramifications that would come from that
in
that small town environment.
Right.
But there it didn't matter. This was her business. This was her money. This was her name, her reputation. And those were her rules, and they were made clear, and you broke the rules and you had to go. It blew my mind.
Well, it's kind of like good news and bad news. They both travel fast, but like if she's doing something good, girls that come there know there's a tone already set. Like this is what you follow. And she obviously had that presence, and that's great because she's creating better leaders out there. I think that's awesome.
Right. I agree. Do you have something from early on or even before you were doing hair that clicked for you?
I had a really, really good friend of mine who I'm not in very good, I'm not in touch with anymore, but watching her while we were friends really intrigued me because, well, I'll tell you, it was for all the wrong reasons. One was she got to go to work and have fun. Two,
she was a hairstylist?
Yeah. Okay. She owned her own business. She got to go to work. She had fun. She got to travel. She got to do all these great things. And it just looked really fun. When I started hair school, I didn't even know I liked doing hair. I played hair, and I would throw a few highlights in a friend's hair or whatever, but it wasn't like this passion that I had.
So your passion came
after I started.
Okay.
Actually, I got in it for money. Like I thought,
yeah, and
here we go. Here's a way for me to bank, make my own schedule. I'm going to be self-employed. Here we go. And I thought that was just the answer to everything. But in fact, it was not until I was there that I was mesmerized by it, and more so cutting than coloring. Cutting, I can go into a place that's just like me and that head of hair, and I realized that, and so it really was a way for me to express myself artistically, which I've always been pretty artistic in other areas, and it just clicked. And it's just been an ever evolving thing that I've built on, that I just, I can tweak it and fine tune it and all these things, but then there's still just that one way that, I feel like you start with your foundation, but then you get into the ways that you make yourself and your techniques your own.
Right.
And so I think that's just been a really cool journey to watch just evolve for myself. It's just, I had no idea that I loved it as much as I did. That's
crazy. Same with me, really, when I think about it, it wasn't until my dad suggested that I go to beauty school. And we had a conversation, we had lunch, and it was during that time period where I was just kind of drifting. And I think I was working for Sherry Gilderoy then. And he said, "What are you going to do?" It's like, I don't know. I have no clue. For the first time, I don't have a plan.
Mhm.
And he said, "Why don't you do hair or nails? You'd be so good at it." And that was a pivotal moment for sure. My mind was blown. I just never considered my dad would be okay with it. I think I just always assumed being his gay son was enough to ask of my father to be okay with, but to be his
Gay hairdresser
son, you know, stereotypical, just, but I don't know why I assumed that. My dad never gave me any indication that that was how he felt about it. So that changed it. And it was from that moment that it was like, oh, it's okay to like this. I'd always been intrigued. Like you said, I knew those people from back home that just had this cool lifestyle.
Man, they're just their whole vibe, their aura. I'm like,
free and artistic, and you just get to work with beautiful things all day
long.
I mean, drink, and I'm sure back in the 80s do a bunch of cocaine, and I mean, we were rock stars. You know what I mean?
I think the rock star hairdresser thing has totally lost its flair, though, and
I'm glad, though.
Yeah,
I'm glad, because now we have to focus on our craft exclusively.
Yes, we can't just go in and suck it up and look good.
No, I mean, some people can, and I mean, hats off to you, but I think if you really want to make it, you've got to walk the walk. Yeah, some stability too.
You know, and I think just going back to finding out that I was actually in love with the industry was huge. I think that moving into the first part of my career even was another pivotal moment for me. I just remember listening. I listened all the time and I watched constantly. I could not cut hair the way that I cut hair today if it wasn't for like 3 or 4 core girls that I started off working with right out of school. And I mean, they really did know their stuff. And anytime I wasn't working, I was watching.
Yeah.
And I didn't go home and I didn't leave the salon. As a matter of fact, I cleaned the salon for booth rent.
See, the things that you do, especially
but I wanted it that badly.
That we lose that. You know, we don't spend the time up there as we're building. A lot of us, I say, we did. You got to be there, right? You've got to be seen and be a part of it. And anyway, you were saying, I'm sorry.
But I just think that those, you know, those girls and their technique I was even blown away. Another pivotal moment I had, an aha moment, was when I went to the Aquage Masters Academy in Austin, Texas, where you were not on stage.
I didn't do any stage work for the Masters Academy.
Yeah.
I just was an educator, the ones that would walk around and help you.
They were wonderful.
Well, that's all I ever did. So
that was a wonderful experience in itself.
Yeah.
But I did not realize truly how talented those hairdressers were that I started off with until I went into that Masters Academy class and we were doing the dry cutting portion of it. And all of those techniques I already knew from watching those girls.
That's awesome.
And so not that I couldn't be brushed up on them or, practice them a little bit more.
But you got it early.
I got
good education early.
I did. And it was very, 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 set a very strong foundation for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say lucky, but I think you were right where you're supposed to be, right? And that's what most people, especially starting out beauty school, they get frustrated because they feel like they're not learning anything.
Right.
And I say it over and over again, but you don't realize it until you're out of school and actually learning that you don't learn it in school.
You really don't.
You might be lucky enough to get a little bit of an advanced education considering what beauty school curriculum standard is, which is just to teach you how to pass your state board exam, right?
Right.
So those of us who are lucky enough to get that advanced training early on, mine came well into my career. I'd say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Once I started with Aquage, that's when I feel like my real advanced training happened.
Really? And what would you say was like one of the most pivotal moments going from being a hairdresser behind the chair to walking into and stepping into education on that level?
It was probably a series of moments, but before I started in education, I worked in education, not for hair, right? So I worked for a vocational school and then Southern Methodist University. But from the time I started doing hair until I got on stage or started teaching classes, I had opened my salon. So I feel like that gave me definitely more of a platform foundation to pivot into that. The situation that I was in before I opened my salon, it was a commission salon. I learned a lot of things there, more about service, customer service, but I would never have been able to pursue being an educator because the owner of that place was very, if it's not my team, it's an enemy.
For sure.
And anybody who was not immediately within his salon was an enemy, whether it be a rep, an educator, anything. So I would not have been able to even pursue that.
The pee on your leg kind of hairdresser.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. We all know him.
You're mine. You're mine.
Yeah,
and
we
if
know
you're not
those
with
ones.
me, you're against me.
100%.
Yeah. But I mean, that served its purpose as well. But yeah, and again, that not wanting to stagnate. You know, I achieve a goal with my career. I attain it and I do it for a while and get it going good, and then it's like, okay, what now?
Well, I kind of think that's what I was asking too. Is what was your feeling like going from this into the education? Like, did you feel any like? I mean, it had to have been a great accomplishment feeling.
It was really exciting, and honestly, what was the most exciting about it initially, because I didn't necessarily choose it. I didn't seek it out. I was seeking training. I went to a masterclass academy like you did. I actually met Taylor and Robert there. I didn't speak to them much, but they were there. And then I think I attended a second masterclass academy, and Luis Alvarez, the founder of Aquage, approached me about becoming an educator. And yeah, I mean, right there, it was like, oh, wow, I didn't even have to fill out an application. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You came to me. So that right there, but I think just the way he built me up while I, trained with them and all, he prepared me to do it.
To touch on the Aquage Academy in itself, I know I had several very relaxed, chill conversations with Eric Fisher. Had very chill conversations.
They're
with
very
Louis
reachable.
Those people make you feel very much just like it's another day in training. They don't lead with ego. I love that. And I remember just, you could feel that. The one I was at was the one where Miss Ann Bryant herself, bless her heart, and fell.
Yes.
And I mean, she got up like a boss. Literally like a boss, busted nose and all, finished her class, teaching us, making sure we were all instructed accordingly before she ever went to the ER.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I was not at that one, but I worked with them shortly after that one, and yeah, I heard all about it. But Luis was one of the founders of Aquage. Eric Fisher was the lead educator. Badass, put out series of collections and all kinds of educational videos, and has salons in Kansas and schools. I mean, he's just top notch. But that man sat down with me and my former business partner and gave advice. He was like, anything you need. So I was lucky enough to get on with a company early on that was so devoted to training. And they're about transparency. There weren't secrets as far as our techniques. There weren't gimmicks. There weren't anything. It was just all very real. So that helped to get in with that early on versus maybe another product company where I may not have had the same experience. But my dad also prepped me to be on stage. I mean, come on, Ernesto Sr.
Y'all are like a long line of performers with that chiseled jaw.
It's in the blood.
And y'all just speak so well.
Well,
you do all the things right.
So that had to have, played a big, big part in it. And there's something about, I'm comfortable on stage. I am. It's one thing to speak on stage, but to perform and do hair on stage, now that was quite another. So I also was lucky enough to get pushed and taught. And like you said, when I'm not working, I'm watching. And I did a lot of watching when I trained with Aquage, and had a lot of really great help from some amazing people along the way. So that all just happened as it happened. But
well, and if you guys have not, are they still doing that academy now?
I don't think so. That company's been sold twice now, and I'm pretty sure not.
That was an amazing academy. To those who got to go, very, very cool. One of the other, I guess, pivotal moments that we would probably, I would say I would step into was being a business owner. And being a business owner wasn't something that I really wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to be a salon owner. And the reasons I did it were because, you know, I didn't want things to change. And I was kind of stuck in this whole fear mentality of wanting to just things be the same. And if it doesn't change, then it won't, you know, nothing bad will happen. So I don't have to play damage control.
Right
so
here.
I just stay right here in my little nook. So I bought the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, ownership wasn't a great thing for me. And going through that was insanely hard. But it was pivotal. I grew. I realized what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. And, you know, it led me to Fort Worth, which, you know, the ending of my career in Wichita Falls was, you know, obviously a little bit solemn and sad. And, you know, there was a lot of things and hurts and things that I walked away from there. But coming into Fort Worth, I came into, you know, a whole new world. And it was something that I thought would be so easy. Like, I didn't realize when I was in Wichita Falls how insanely blessed I was with clientele. Like, when you're in your
until
hometown,
you walk away from that.
when you walk away, like, I was
take it for
blessed. Like, I mean, I wanted not for a client, even when I didn't act right.
To the
you know
point
what I
that
mean?
you probably had too many, and
Yes.
you were like, "I'm going to kill myself
Overwhelmed.
working here."
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, they just want to throw money at you back home, you know?
Yes, and then you come to a place where they don't know who you are.
Right.
So
But
go on
that's
ahead and get to
humbling,
peddling.
right?
It really was.
Yeah.
And I tried a few places. I had never bounced around salons. Like, I'd pride myself in the fact that, you know, oh, I've never switched salons. And I bought this one after, you know, and like, whoa, like, how naive of me to be even like, whatever.
No, I mean, I think that's an important thing. I know plenty of salon hoppers, although at times it's felt like that, you know, here. But yeah, you just got to make sure you're in the right spot.
But I did. I had a few little spots where the first one where I met you.
Who would have thought?
I know.
That, and here we go back to Aquage and how this, everything just kind of plays out the way it's supposed to, and the butterfly effect, right?
Right.
You're our friend, Missy Duffel, whom I know through Aquage, working with Aquage. She's an Armstrong McCall store owner, former in Wichita Falls. And we had great connection. We had great whatever. She reached out and said, "Hey, I've got a salon owner here that is moving to Fort Worth to be with her kids," and asked questions about the salon I was at. And I didn't really have any answers other than, yeah, they do commission. You know, have her talk to the owners, that we would be here
sitting in the lounge
recording a podcast together, because you were having a little bit of a tough time then, and it scared me.
Yeah.
So I kept you at 6 arms length.
I was scary
for a couple of years.
And I
just didn't know you.
Well,
I understood.
And I was an insanely scared small town woman coming.
You felt like a girl.
I felt like a child. I felt like a toddler crawling into Fort Worth, like on my arms, on my hands and knees. Like, it was scary. But when I got here, I realized that, you know, I had a lot of work to do. And I started with the salon that we were at together, and that was not a good fit for me. Not that it wasn't a good fit. It was a great environment. I needed more structure at that time.
Right.
I was just in a place where I wasn't providing the structure I needed for myself. And so I went back and took it way back, and I went to Ulta Beauty, and I worked there for about 2.5 years, commission-based. After being a salon owner and having a full book, and
it's hard being the low man on the totem pole when you come into a place.
I started because I had no clientele. I had to start at the bottom tier. It didn't matter my experience. It didn't matter. And I worked my way up from there. And in 1.5 years' time, you know, I was able to, you know, hit markers and things that nobody had met at that store since it was open.
See, if nothing else, that humbling experience should show you that, you know, there was a little bit of protection back home. In Midland and Wichita Falls, all you needed to do was know some people.
100%. That's all you had to do.
And luckily, my dad knows everybody. So just purely through osmosis, I know everybody too. And so that helped, but there's a cushion. with that. There's a built-in.
Well, there's also
But
like a little forgiveness because that's your dad's friend.
Right,
or
right.
Like, yeah.
But you did it without any of that cushion, without any of that knowing who you are, hometown advantage, and
Right.
you did it.
I did.
So that should just prove that that you've got the skills, you've got the talent, you've got all the stuff you need. It's not just because of where you're at.
Well, and I think one of the coolest parts about it is that, I got to take collectively all of my mistakes from Wichita Falls. Like, here was this mistake, with my scheduling, how I did that. Here was this mistake I did here, and this one here, and this one here. And I got a chance to honestly come here, work commission for 2.5 years. And I'm not going to lie to you, there it was a very, once you started hitting your markers, Ulta Beauty pays competitively. Like, I mean, it wasn't a income thing for me to leave. As more so it was scheduling and wanting a little more freedom in that aspect. But all in all, that, I mean, they do have a really great program for people starting off. But what it did show me is, where I could pick the pieces that worked and take a couple years, get a business plan together, get myself together, and then branch back out into being self-employed again. And it gave me a lot of time to heal. And that was just going from all the way up here to all the way down here was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
It is humbling. I mean, I did the same thing. I walked away from my clientele in Midland. Well, kind of. I would go back every 5 weeks to do some of them, but to sit around and watch people not doing it, watch them work while I'm doing nothing,
right,
was so hard. It was such an ego hit. I mean, it really helped to put my ego in check, because being the owner and being the one in charge and being the one that did all the stuff, right? I just wasn't used to not being, and I needed that, just like you did. I mean, I came with the tools, but had to play big leagues, and I think I was able to do it just because. I don't know.
Well, and don't you think too, though? Like, I know the ego has been the hardest death for me here, but those were also pauses that came at some insanely stressful times in our lives, and it was kind of like, you're either going to stop doing it this way or you're going to get stopped doing it this way. And, I think I got stopped doing it the bad way, the way that wasn't healthy for me. And I almost just view it now as just a huge gift, because I got to come here and I got to rest.
Right.
And I got to rebuild, and I got to, take away the bad things and put the good things back in. And, life hits and happens to everyone. Nobody is excluded from that. And no matter what circumstance it may be, it does sometimes take a toll on your business. And so I think having a very flexible mindset to say, well, if it's not working this way and something happened here, let me redirect here is such a great quality to have. Is, find that it's just, I've done it this way for so long, try not to stay in that stagnation of,
especially if it's not working.
Way. Right.
If there are elements that aren't working, but what else?
What do you mean, what else?
I was thinking of another pivotal moment I was going to share, but
I would like to hear it.
Okay. I was just going to wait for a pause. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Absolutely not. See, now that just made it awkward.
Did it?
No, just keep going. Interrupt me.
This is just how we
Don't
talk.
y'all think you should interrupt me every once in a while?
Daddy says don't.
Okay, go.
Huge moment for me, and this was more about I guess putting the ego in check somewhat, but also it made me realize what we are to people. We aren't just people that do their hair.
Right.
To some people, I'm sure. But I had a guest in my chair. I'd go as far as to call her a friend. Her name is Sue. And I was probably 4 years into my career, maybe 5. And the economy had taken a big hit. It was like 2008-ish, the mortgage thing, right? Oil and gas was suffering, and Midland is all oil. And my client's husband was, I believe, a geologist and had been laid off. And they were a single income family. He made great money. They had 2 children. She didn't work. And she's sitting here in my chair and she's crying and she's telling me all this. And she's like, Ernie, I've got to go back to work and I haven't worked in 25 years. I don't even know what I'm going to do, what I can do. Oh my gosh, how awful. And I'm thinking, why the hell are you in my chair? You're about to drop like $200 telling me all these problems about your husband being laid off. You have to go back to work. Why are you about to spend this money? And I asked her, what are you doing here then? And she said, Ernie, I gave up my Starbucks, I gave up my housekeeper, I gave up my tanning, and I gave up my nails, and I'm not giving my hair up. And she said, if for no other reason, I've got to look good for job interviews, right? And it struck me, and it's always stuck with me. In those moments where I feel taken advantage of, I feel like I've been over backwards and broken my neck and done all these things for people, and I just get tapped out. I think about that.
Right.
How lucky we are. We're recession proof. We're, not pandemic proof, we found out, but
we're AI proof.
I
mean, I'm not doing virtual hair. Y'all can just get right on over that one. That's weird.
Oh, I don't know. They're going to have the at-home robots that'll
virtually
do it for you.
No, you can't. You cannot replace this energy. I'm sorry.
But that helped to keep, it just shifted me. Mm-hmm. I repivoted and decided to look at things differently and be more grateful.
Well, I think that's just what that shows you right there, is that in that instance, she was not there for her hair. She was not there for her hair.
She was there for her.
She was there for
herself,
because she needed a little piece of something that you are able to give her that she may not get from any other person in this world.
Right.
Somebody said something to me the other day, and we were talking about shampooing, and this just like randomly stuck out. But that maybe the one time, was it you that said this to me?
Probably.
That's the one time when you're actually touching your client that they may actually get like physical attention. Like, that may be the one time in their life. Like they may live alone at home. They may not have somebody to rub their head or their shoulders or their back or whatever.
The intimacy of it.
And the intimacy of it is just something you need to have mad respect for.
But
I mean, it's just as a whole, like, the salon in itself
just
is
what
an
we
intimate
do.
experience.
Yes. But, and you think about, how many women can any random person walk right up to and touch their hair without that woman flinching?
Right.
I can do it to a woman and she almost like leans into me, right? It's something that we get to do. It's a space that we get to be in with somebody that they usually don't let people in.
Right.
Whether they're alone or even married. Like my husband does not rub my head the way that we rub people's heads.
My future husband will be rubbing my head.
He does a great job. I'm not saying that, Brent. You do an amazing job. But there's something very vulnerable about being in that position when you're being shampooed, where you are laid back, your eyes are closed, and you are trusting somebody with a hose of water.
I didn't even take it to that level.
At your head. Okay? So there's that, but it's, all you shampoo techs, if you're listening, don't take any of those shampoos for granted, because they do more than we realize. We do more than we realize for people.
Well, and that would be another pivotal moment that one of the hairdresser that I used to go to, that I was friends with, that, kind of inspired me to go on and go to cosmetology school. Everybody went to her because of her shampoos, because she had strong hands. She paid attention. She scrubbed people's head well, gave them a massage. People went back to her. She was notorious for her shampoos. Those things are little things that, like, you may think are not huge. A big deal. They're such a big deal.
They are.
I think we already said that once, like 4 episodes ago, or 2 or 3.
We'll
but it's so true. Yes, I will be like beat a dead horse there.
But I think that also helped in building my clientele.
Yes.
I was known for giving good shampoos, and when I started working with shampoo techs, a lot of my clients were disappointed, and I had to adjust to that and show them that other people can do it too. It's fine. But just taking every one of those things into account. And I think it's just from lessons that I've learned along the way that stuck, these pivotal moments that just made me the hairdresser, A, I wanted to be, and B, that I am, and C, that I would still like to be. So
would you say, in your experience, as many years as you've got behind the chair, would you say, I'm not implying anything, I'm just simply asking,
call me Papa.
Would you say that you have gained more knowledge from just everyday work and working around your coworkers and watching and feeding off of other stylists, or would it be from like hands-on education? Where would you say you've gained most of your knowledge from?
I mean, I don't know, because I have had a lot of formal training. I have had a lot of education, but I've also been a part of a lot of education. And even when I was teaching classes with other artists or was on stage with other artists, I was still learning.
Mm-hmm.
So both.
And I think what I'm just trying to get to here is that like it's just a pivotal thing, I think, that is very, very good for stylists. Just a little nugget of something that just flashed into my mind is that, feed off of the people around you.
Absolutely.
Like, don't ever stop looking.
Observe.
Don't ever stop observing. Don't ever stop asking questions. I will ask somebody fresh out of school a question about color, and I'm genuinely asking them. And sometimes they look at me like I'm batshit crazy, but they're just out of school. Maybe they've got something fresh on their mind that I don't. I didn't just get out of school. I do some of the same formulations all the time. And sometimes my brain is just going to go straight on that neural pathway right to that one answer and not think outside the other ways. Yeah. And so ask people, ask all kinds of people. Like, I think that's one of the coolest things. And I know I've gained so much knowledge from that.
Definitely. And you and I have worked around a lot of talented people. We do still. And I love observing. And if I have a moment where I'm sitting, I see more.
You're texting me. I'm not. You're texting me 17 times.
What I was trying to find a way to say is, like, when I'm not texting or looking at my phone while I'm sitting down, I am watching. And I was watching you do one of those Shauna Parvin Aquage haircuts the other day with that super clean neckline. And I just am mesmerized. And yeah, never stop learning. Always observe that you don't know it all, and your way is not the best way. And you got to let go of that ego first, right? To be able to realize that. But wow, the day we stop learning, it's time to quit.
It's time to hang it up.
I'm retired.
Well, what do you think, Ernie? Have we said enough?
No, I feel like we could go on for an hour, but maybe we've said enough.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming to this episode of Hometown Hairdressers. We hope you took some little pieces from our pivotal moments and maybe gained a little knowledge.
Or even just learned a little bit more about us. I mean,
either way,
pretty interesting.
All right. Until next time.
You guys take care of yourselves and each other.
All right. Bye-bye.